and my wife is but a shortened day. Okay. Let me do the 15 blocks, but I'll start with 10. I'll start with 7, whatever I feel. And so 10 worked. So for a few days it was 10, but then I realized it was 20 because 10 down means 10 up.
Right.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
But I tricked myself. I thought I was doing 10. Well, and then it became easier. And then all of a sudden, I turned around and looked at her, and all of a sudden we're on 95th Street from 103rd. And I didn't even think we moved.
Look at
Because
that.
it helps if you do it with someone, because when you gab a little and think a little and look a little, you forget what you're doing. You
Time
just
flies, yeah.
do the walking, okay? And now, today, this what I suddenly looked around. I said, we're on 83rd, you know? Now, one thing I did, so to go 3.7 miles, you know, at once after not doing anything, we have a hill. 96th Street to 103rd is from the valley to the
Oh,
mountains.
sure. Yeah, that's right.
So that's the challenge, and that's on the way back.
Right.
Okay, but it was gradual, and now it's second nature. You know.
Well, I'm gonna do well, you want a little variety, so I'm gonna do the 79th Street and back up Broadway.
Mm-hmm.
But
Right.
if I even go across town to Fifth Avenue, across the park and back,
Right.
that's okay too, because
We're not avoiding you, Robert.
That's right. Yes, indeed. I go out there with my pot. Let me grab my pot. I'll see you in a minute. My pot.
There's now a guy in my backyard that has a saxophone, so we're getting melodic about all this, so it's quite nice.
Yeah.
So Shelley, we're a little short on quorum right now, so maybe you want to wait a minute.
Wait a couple of minutes. How's everybody doing? We'll have a check-in.
There you go.
Good?
We are live streaming, so.
Good?
Good.
Hi,
Okay.
can everybody hear me?
Hey, Audrey. Yes, indeed. Good to
Hi,
hear you.
Audrey.
Okay,
When we said quorum, you said Audrey.
right, exactly. I'm not a very
going?
experienced, I'm not an experienced Zoom meeting, so getting in, staying in are not to be for granted.
It used to be sugar in the morning, sugar in the evening. Now it's Zoom in the morning. Zoom in the evening.
Right, exactly.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Audrey, do you have a smartphone? Because you can actually get Zoom on your smartphone if you want.
No, I don't.
Okay. I've discovered that recently, and it has its advantages.
Hi, Courtney. I'm Audrey.
Hi.
Welcome to the community board.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Nice to be here.
Okay. Are you especially interested in Health and Human Services or just checking it out?
I'm as I think Mark would say, I'm shopping. I'm a diligent shopper. I was told to shop diligently, and I'm doing so.
Oops,
Great.
froze up. Okay.
Let's have you for tonight or ongoing, whatever you choose.
It is also an impressive work on the part of my husband, who's been who gets the kids passed off to him for all of the shopping.
Oh.
So.
Okay. Gotcha.
Excellent.
It's a group
We're just
effort
waiting
for
over
it.
here.
I was wondering if Courtney was sporting a Strawberry Fields Imagine mug.
I am, actually.
Thought
Oh,
that was
This is
community board appropriate, I thought, you know.
this is true.
As opposed to mine, which is from Austin, Texas.
Oh, that's funny. Yeah, I've had this one for years. I have a morning. I know we're live streaming. I have a morning mug and an evening tea mug. Those are I'm a creature of routine.
Great, very
Excellent.
cute.
Now, Robert said he's going out. I hope he's on the first floor.
I think he has a balcony.
Then, oh, that's good. That's good.
It was very loud by me tonight. Extreme, more loud than normal.
Yes, I
Maybe
can hear
was
it.
back weekend.
I can hear it from inside. It's usually less. We have a second floor drummer, a professional drummer who's in the New York Philharmonic, so on, who's at home. So he really does a number now, but unfortunately does it for 5 hours in the afternoon. So if I'm sitting where I am, I hear it constantly, and you know, I've gotten used to most of it, but every once in a while I say, could you stop that? Oh, could you stop that, please?
Yeah.
I'm going to give a little intro. I'm sure he'll come back. Won't have to repeat too much. So there's a lot happening. So I'm just going to give a report. And
Okay.
some of it is based on initiatives of the board and some things that were mentioned and promoted at our meetings, Health and Human Services and at the full board. And some of those things were how to get the proper supplies to people and the support for organizations who are helping people. And another one was the, the hotel issue, okay? How to support the mayor's initiative for bringing people to hotels who otherwise would be either in facilities that did not have proper ratios between restrooms and apartments, and others that were in buildings where very close quarters, and by being in those situations, the community spread could be great. So Robert, welcome back. Robert, right?
Can you hear me okay?
How was the pot?
I'm gonna sink a hole into that little pot.
Okay.
Every night, bang
I meant he was hitting the pot. You know what?
Did you hear it? Did it come across loud and
pot
clear?
out. He said he was gonna take his pot out to the terrace. So
Yeah.
every place is something. So Audrey is also with it. We have a quorum.
Okay, great. Hey, Lolita.
Hi, how are you?
Pretty good.
And Courtney's
I
here.
saw you out there.
Hi.
Okay. Do you know Courtney?
I
You
think I
remember-
seen Courtney once. She's Courtney's new. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Well, hi, bienvenida, as they say in the movies.
Hi.
I think we met last year, Courtney. You came to a communication session meeting. Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Okay, so Audrey's on also, and we have a quorum. So I'm just going to give some reports. Okay, let's start with our hotel resolution. It all stemmed from the Wishfish experience, where on the Euclid Hall on 86th Street, there were suites of 3 rooms with 1 bathroom. So 1 or 2 people, so the organization contacted DFTA, Department for the Aging, and all the health related city agencies and the mayor's office, etc., and said, we're going to have community spread and we're putting people in danger. This was back in the end of February, actually. Can't we do something? We have to remove people from the building and separate them. We also, Wishfish had other buildings too, about 2 or 3 with similar situations. And some SROs, which were not Wishfish SROs, have 8 to a bathroom, 12 to a bathroom. And how do you control the spread of disease with that type of situation? So after much pushing and mentioning at the community board, the city decided to take almost the whole population of Euclid Hall, 273 residents, 2 hotels in the Midtown area, upper Midtown area, and each having a separate room. with their own bathroom. And eventually what happened was 1/3 of those went back to the Euclid Hall, one for every suite, so that it wouldn't burden the hotels. But there were other hotels that needed this, other residences that needed this, and so people were moved in, and there's been a transition depending upon the health situation in each area. Well, that was the first and last of it. The mayor, for some reason, first said no more. Well, he didn't say it. He was alleged to say it. And then about a month later, he said he's going to do it. He's going to have 6,000 hotel rooms. Well, it was fine, but the New York City Emergency Management had gotten hotels for Wisfish originally, but we weren't satisfied. We said we need 3 meals a day available, and we need a medical team to check out the people when they come in and out, and to respond, because it's elderly people, to respond to medical situations immediately on-site medical team. Well, the city was resistant to do that. Finally, they did it, and it worked well. Not one person who went to the hotel, or one person who remained or eventually went back, got either sick or died. Okay, very incredible numbers. So we advocated to support the mayor's initiative with the 6,000, hoping that they would deal with these type of issues first. And there was a lot of confusion around it. But what our resolution said was we not only support sending people to hotels, but to have the 3 meals, the nurses or medical team, and Wisfish has its own social workers, but other places may or may not, to have social work teams from homeless services or wherever necessary, so that people could have someone to be in contact with. It's a very disturbing time for everybody, but many of these people have mental health issues to begin with. So the program's working, but there's very few, from what I've heard, but there's very few reports on the news about what specifically happened. But the hotel rooms are being used, and the program's in effect. It disturbs me a little bit that this should be, if not highlighted, it should be mentioned in the mayor's reports. But at least we showed our support for it, and they did get the nurses, and they did get the food, and they did get the social work teams.
Yeah. Hey, Shelley, did you hear about the expansion? They're using 2 different hotels in our district now for a similar function. There's an 800-bed homeless shelter, single adult homeless shelter near Bellevue Hospital. And of all places, the Belclair Hotel, which has just undergone an extensive and very painstaking renovation, to restore its Beaux-Arts original character, volunteered for this. As I understand it, and correct me if you've heard differently, the hotels have to not volunteer, but they have to pitch it. They don't get assigned. They have to, in effect, make a request to be included, and then they get a certain amount and number of people and so forth.
Exactly. It's a vetting process. Okay.
I just have to say, from relatives in the hospitality industry that are furloughed, it's a wonderful thing that they're volunteering, but it's also to stave off bankruptcy.
I guess, right? I don't know what they're paying for the hotel rooms, but it's got to be more than 0. So
a minimum of $147 a night per room.
That's
probably most I heard.
That's not nothing.
Can I ask a question? So do we know that they're getting access to services in the Belclair?
We know, yeah. We know that in each place, the services went with the package.
Right. The Belclair, hang on one second. At the Belclair, it's Give me a second. I think it's Help USA. Yeah, it's Help USA who has,
That was my next question.
who has a,
Yeah.
yeah. And at the Park West Hotel, which is up on, I think, 107th Street or 108th Street, it's actually an organization called Care for the Homeless, for like the numeral 4, Care for the Homeless. So in both cases, there's some kind of case management services available. Help USA is one of the better ones.
Sorry, one more question. Did they do any, prior to this happening, did they do any kind of community neighborhood outreach or communication, or are there guidelines for how you interact with the neighbors or residents who are already in? I think the Belle Claire had some people who were living there, right? Already.
They do.
Yep.
The Belle Claire is part residential and part transient.
Yeah.
Shelley, what do you know about, I mean, there are rules that apply to shelters, which I assume will also apply to, sheltering at the Belle Claire.
So everyone has to be checked as they enter, temperature is taken. Okay. They have to have a daily checkup, and if there's any indication of illness by the social worker, the medical team has to go to the resident and make sure that they're getting a COVID-19 test, that other medical things are taken care of. They're supposed to have, the social worker is supposed to have a profile of the medical background of the individual, because there are other medical conditions, underlying conditions, other conditions. Again, we know where they're going, but there's no reports on it. Okay, there's no public reports. Okay.
You mentioned 2 hotels, the Belle Claire and the Park West. Are there any other hotels in our area that are doing this?
Those are the only 2 that I've heard about. Shelley, have you heard any?
The Fairfield, which is on 58th and 12th.
Yeah, that's just outside our district, but yeah.
Yeah, that's not really
You
us.
mentioned one of the hotels on 107th Street.
Right.
Yeah, I
that's
think it's
Park West.
107th, 108th, Audrey.
Yeah, the
It's
reason
called
I
the Park
asked
West.
is,
Do you know it?
the reason I ask is that there was a small hotel right next to the women's shelter, and rumor has it that that building may very well have been sold to the city to become a shelter. So I wonder if that's the.
I wonder if you, that's good sleuthing. I wonder if that's not it. Let me find out.
Yeah.
Okay. I think they picked the Belle Claire because Bellevue and Belle Claire sounded alike.
Yes.
I'd love to move into the Belle Claire any day. It's beautiful.
But it's certainly, they know the West Side is going to be more receptive. And so, and there's been no resistance from the outside on what's gone on.
And were the people who are sheltering in these hotels, are they from our neighborhood?
No.
Like, were they already, or they're just, okay.
It could be from anywhere.
Could be from anywhere, okay.
Yeah, the Bellevue homeless shelter thing is citywide. There may be people from our area. I know some people who have gone there. They have a good operation, but it's a large one. It's huge. And it generally isn't good once the services, but they do a good job. And the association with the hospital is direct, which is helpful.
So to Audrey's question, the Park West Hotel is actually on Central Park West. Its address is 465 Central Park West. So that's going to be about 106th Street, 108th Street, somewhere up there.
It's in between.
Okay, I know it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know
Okay.
it.
Yeah.
So it's not the one next to the shelter.
Right,
It's
right.
a nice building, another classic building.
Yes.
Okay, so that was one of our initiatives. Just to let you know what's going on, some others that came up at meetings. Linda Rosenthal has been amazing. She's provided from the state way over 100 gallons of sanitizer. It has
Wow.
New York State emblem on it. It's made in the prisons, I understand. And the central location for dropping it off is at the Euclid Hall, which is a wish list facility. But Goddard Riverside, Lincoln Square Neighborhood Center, and other agencies can pick it up, or we bring it to them from there. But she's been amazing. Initially, it was a few gallons, and she said, "Do you need more?" I said, "Yeah, we need 50 gallons." Okay, I told her how many people per gallon, how many people we have, and she came up with 100 gallons.
She was very
Wow.
sweet because apparently she lives a few blocks from me. And I had sent her an email because after she did the thing at the West Side Democratic Club, she said, send me an email. So I sent one right away because I didn't have any hand sanitizer. So she actually dropped a little bag of them off at my doorman. I thought that was so sweet, you know. She says, I'm leaving the house now. And I'm, you know, do you have a door? And I said, yeah, you know, so she left them there. She's very, very sweet.
Great. That's very kind.
Yes, it is.
And Gail Brewer had access somehow to masks and donated 4,500. Again, it came to Wishfish. Wishfish took a certain part, but we sent to Lincoln Square Neighborhood Center and others so to share the wealth. And there's been other things like that going on, but not public. You know, they haven't advertised their good work publicly, but it's really wonderful. Previously, Mark Levine and Gail Brewer, this is way back when, 2 months ago, I had gotten a call from someone at the Jewish home on 106th Street. They're having problem getting those things, the masks, the gowns, the sanitizer. And they just wanted, they said they could probably pay for it, but how do you get it? And so we got bids from, I got bids from different corporations, businesses, and it has to be vetted by the city. Well, through the Economic Development Corporation. So it goes in the portal and takes forever to find out. So I contacted Gail and she contacted, and through Mark, who's the head of the health committee, and they got them what they needed. And I don't think they had to pay very much for it either. But we've had good fortune in terms of that institution to have a non-typical experience when it comes to nursing homes. No large-scale illness and no large-scale death. Well, there have been some, whereas there are others where it's the most horrible situation we have from this in New York State, New Jersey, and elsewhere. The focus on nursing homes and facilities where people are stuck and families can't see them, and it's easy to catch the virus somehow in those facilities. So good work has been done by our elected officials. And the last of these things, which was a personal crusade, when New York City closed its schools, it said that it would provide grab-and-go meals for the kids and for the families. And then the mayor said, everyone in the community will be fed. Well, everyone that was being fed before was not being fed because halal and kosher meals were not being served anywhere. And after a month or so, through some political saber rattling and something I found out later that no one knew about, Brooklyn, large Jewish communities, Muslim communities in Brooklyn got it, then Queens. And what about Manhattan? Well, Lower East Side got it, but their religious Jewish population is very small. It was 1 million people, you know, at the turn of the 19th to 20th century. It's not like that today. But then when Riverdale got it, I got infuriated. I asked how. They said the council person, the assembly person said they wanted it, they got it. So I contacted our elected officials and they said they're going to work on it, but it didn't happen that way. Okay, what happened was that I had sent someone an email, they sent it to someone else, and they sent it to someone else. And someone from Far Rockaway called me, who I used to work with, and she said she got the kosher meals. She's working for the Jewish Education Project. And I said, how'd you do it? She says, you go to the non-public school Office of Operations. And she immediately connected me with an email. And next day spoke to the fellow, and we booked the grab and go program. That was May 4th. I have the emails. No one, elected officials tried, and every time they tried, they said it's all set up, that I had set it up. They said, well, why isn't it happening? They need a school. So I told them to tell them there are 18 schools to choose from. What's the problem? We have schools.
Spain.
And it has to be a public school. I said, we have synagogues that will open up just for that. We have Jewish schools that can open up for that. And finally, Friday, I got an email from the same person saying, I feel terrible. It's 3 weeks later and it's opening. And then the afternoon, I got these quiet things from every one of the elected officials. Don't tell anybody, allowed to announce it, but the grab and go program starting Tuesday morning. So I said, if no one announces it, no one's going to come. So it happened this morning, and about 400 meals were distributed.
Nice.
Great.
400.
But
Great.
most of them weren't picked up. I had a volunteer group of a dozen people who went around delivering it, because the kids who are getting it are at home on Zoom school. Their parents are working at home and supervising their Zoom school. So they're not going out to pick up meals. It's at PS 75. If you live on 70th Street or 110th Street, you're not taking a walk over. People generally don't ride around in cars on the west side, and so on. So they didn't address that, but we have that. Now there's a core of volunteers who I keep on getting texts. So that's been taken care of now. But these are the issues that have been mentioned at our meetings, both the Health and Human Services and the full board meetings and steering and so on. And so things are getting resolved slowly but surely.
This is good.
So that's the update. We were going to, at that time, dealing with supporting the need for nurses to be provided with proper protective gear. And there was an issue, it was a big union issue involved. So we had supported the nurse-patient ratio initiative, which we initiated the first resolution in the city about, others picked up on, and they were successful with that strike. And they attributed Community Board 7's resolution as being brought up at every meeting, showing community support. That made a difference because it affected our local hospitals, Mount Sinai System and West Side and Manhattan institutions. But this was a sticky one because the fact is that everyone should support getting proper use for, a PPE for nurses, and it became a citywide issue. And now there's a rare situation where it's not. So at the beginning of the month, we would have needed a resolution or do something, but it's just, things have improved. But I told my next door neighbor down the block, who was a union leader, that if something goes wrong, they need some attention, particularly local hospitals, to let us know. And we'll use the community board's influence in that direction. And we don't have to wait for a resolution, I'm sure. That's something we can all, support and would. Now let's get
Shelley,
to.
Shelley, if I may, there's one thing on that. I'm on this call every week with Congressman Espaillat and the heads of the 4 hospitals. And the heads of the hospitals have been reporting for more than a month now that they are more than holding their own with PPE. And yet we also hear from unions and from workers that that maybe there's a stockpile, but it's not necessarily getting to them. So it'd be good for us to continue as you are, to keep our ear to the ground for those who are looking for the receipt of the PPE, because a stockpile is not the same thing as having it in the hands of the people who need it. So
What do you
it's
mean
good
by
that you,
PPE?
I'm sorry,
PPE is
personal
PPE.
protective equipment. So it's
Okay.
masks, it's masks and gloves mostly, but sometimes it's also eye shields. And depending on what part of the hospital you work in, it also may be those disposable gowns.
Okay.
Sorry, can I ask one question?
Please,
Just
Courtney.
actually connecting these two ideas. Do we know if in the Hotel Belclair, and you said it was the Central Park, are they getting access to the masks and gloves and things like that as well to provide to the people who are staying
That I
there?
know. Yeah, yes, this is part of the requirement, and it's being
Okay.
held to. That I know. That I know.
Yeah.
And in the other hotels from the very beginning, some people didn't want masks. They were told if you're going to be, you're in your room is one thing, but you're going into common areas, elevators, and so on, you have to. And they encourage them to, when they go out, to wear the masks and the gloves.
And are they doing, sorry, one more. Are they doing outreach with providing masks and gloves to the people who aren't going into the shelters? Do we know if there's some sort of outreach going on in our neighborhoods about providing masks?
I know they're being given out in NYCHA developments. Okay. That I know. And I know that in the 14 Westside Federation buildings, everybody has access to masks and sanitizer, and you can't go in and go out. And in supportive housing, like the ones we have, but a lot of supportive housing, regular check-ins by the social workers.
Right.
Daily.
So also,
yeah.
In addition to that, as Shelley and Robert both know very well, Goddard Riverside has outreach folks that often do ride-alongs with the police to do outreach to the homeless. And Goddard Riverside supplies those outreach folks with masks and gloves as well as hand sanitizer, although if you're living on the street.
And they're telling us they have all they need to?
Last I heard, which was last Friday, yes.
Great.
Okay, but it's something we should, not become complacent about, because what is may not be as time goes on. In fact, in Wisfish, we was talking about surplus. What, to make sure, keep on asking, keep on getting, because what's going to happen in 2 months, what's going to happen in 3 months, we have no idea. And whereas people may become complacent, and the city may say, well, we've gotten past that, and not keep getting the supplies that people need. And what's going to happen, this is not for our thing now, but what's going to happen when schools open? How is that going to be? If, right, if and how. Okay, we have a task, which is a good one, okay? We have to do our district needs statement, Health and Human Services part of it. And I'm going to ask the office to send everybody the last year's, okay? But we have to keep in mind what is different now, okay? Some of it'll be obvious, and some of it we should use data for, okay? So for instance, if we were supporting issues of food insecurity, well, we went from the frying pan into the bonfire in terms of people not having food and the need for food. There are numerous cases that I know of, even successful people, economically successful people in the neighborhood, who are now struggling with 4 kids and 2 parents who are now without jobs and nothing in the future, because they're in the human service provider situation, and in what they do there's no place for it. It needs groups, it needs, organizations. There are other people who, businesses are falling apart, and all of a sudden They're looking where I can get some food and be anonymous because they're embarrassed. Okay, including some prominent people on the west side. People that you see the names and you say, how's that possible? In addition to all the people who were struggling before. So we need to try to project, because the district needs statement is for next fiscal year. Am I right, Mark?
Yeah, so you're now talking about the fiscal 2021.
Mhm.
No, I'm sorry, fiscal 2022.
22. So,
Right, because fiscal 21 is going to start the end of next month.
right. So last year, every year, it's like a year and a half, 2 years lag.
Yep.
So we'll have to try to make it relevant and rather be more vigilant in our requests and expression of needs, because we don't know what's going to be.
Yeah.
Depends on who you speak to. Oh, this is going to be a year. This is going to be 2 years. Oh, it's going to be 3 months, unless there's a winter thing. We don't know. We just know that there are so many people out of work. There are so many people who are struggling, and we had loads of people to begin with who had those needs. So what I'd like you to do is, within next week, is to really look over what we had, think about some of the issues we've been talking about and things that concern you and things you know about, and come up with some recommendations, and we'll share them, okay, and comment on them online. Because
Do we have last year's statement for this committee?
we made a statement, okay, but you're going to be sent what we did last year.
You'll send it to us?
Yeah.
Okay,
Okay.
yeah,
But we should
that
take it
would
very
be easier.
seriously, because usually we sit around and talk, and we have agencies come to, to testify to us. We may be able to do that. I think the pressure's a little bit off of some of them now, but not that much, to ask them to spend an hour with us. But I think we should really take it apart and become familiar with it, first of all, and then take it apart and bring up issues. We don't have to have the solutions. We can raise the issues of what needs are. Okay. The other thing we need to do, and we've done it at least once a year in the past, but we're kind of lagging now because of the craziness of the past few months, is to come up with topics that we want to explore. We've been pretty proactive, but rather than falling to be reactive, okay, that we can say these are issues that we're concerned with long-term that affect our community, and brainstorm a little bit things we would like to explore. So anybody have any ideas right now? Things that you think we should take as priorities for our meetings, for research, for inviting experts, and so on.
I had sent you,
You know
an
what
email about a month ago of a panel, and I'll go digging through my emails and find it and send it out to everybody. It had to do with a panel on a timely topic.
Okay.
You know what I've been tossing around, Shelley, is that as terrible as this entire situation is, we have a saying in Spanish, and I'm sure there's an equivalent in English, and you speaking of Spanish, no hay mal que por bien no venga. There's nothing terrible that happens that doesn't have a positive outcome at some point. So this plague is pretty awful, but we have cleaner air. The dolphins are swimming in the channels in Venice. It's quiet, there's less noise pollution. So what I've been tossing around with my friends is making a wish list of all of the positive outcomes of this disaster and convert them into programmatic targets and how we can work on that and get people to think about these things with us. Because what I was shocked by yesterday, because I go out, as you know, you do your morning thing and you see that on West End, there's no traffic. But even on Broadway in Amsterdam, over the past several months, there's been comparatively little traffic.
Mhm.
Yesterday, there was a lot of traffic on 96th Street. I said, where the hell did all of these cars come from? It was like a culture shock. I said, I don't want this many cars. And some of the thinking that's going on is how to institutionalize this new transportation issue that has presented itself. And then I recall that in our country and around the world, we've had experiments and successful ones where complete downtowns, we've done it on Herald Square, but complete downtowns that barring traffic and their plazas. And you go shopping and, you take a bus and you go there and there's a destination and you spend your money and so on, but fewer cars. And hasn't that been one of our targets in the city? Very difficult to control. It's not one of the mayor's targets, and I know Helen was behind it as a biker. But if we took our list of what we like in this new world and put energy behind it and affect social policy in a stronger way based on our experience through our committee, because there are issues that affect, the health of the community and, noise pollution and traffic, and there's transportation committee work and the whole works. So I wonder if we could kind of do an exercise where we would submit our wish list, and then you could sit down and collate the responses and say, these are the things that we like of what has happened to us. And we can convert this into program. We can use this for the arguments that are already in place. Vehicular traffic, for example, noise pollution. And so I think that would be a worthwhile project and a group project that everyone would, and it would be very interesting to see, because, we're varied in our experience and so on, that we may see things that we would wish to continue that others may not see. So I think that's a worthy project. And then so for example, we've had the Regional Plan Association, I invited them initially on housing, on the NYCHA thing. But they also have series of, they call them sessions, they're assemblies. And they have one or two a week, and I attend them, and they're local and they're international, and they're addressing the issues, the COVID-19 impact, and how's it changing the world, and what do we see? What does it mean for transportation, the things that I've been talking about? So there are think tanks out there of people who are looking for platforms to share their thoughts and ideas. Because it is a new world. Everything's going to change. And you as an educator, didn't we have a little eruption a few months ago over the whole thing with Zoom and what's happening with Zoom and the hacking and the whole thing? And, this is the new world, and we have to fight it. We have to correct it and so on. So there are people who have given this a lot of thought, who think about these things on an ongoing basis, and that includes us.
Okay.
We're a committee, we're board. So, I'd like to see us approach the new environment in that way. We know what the harm is, but what's the good?
Okay,
And how
I
can
got that.
we-
I'll just throw out a funny one. Kids
Yeah.
said to me, no more snow days. We'll Zoom. Okay.
There you go.
I would like some health experts to come to the committee to talk about the potential of these vaccines, the pros and cons, to explain to us, what's going on. There's a lot of people that, I've talked to, they're against the vaccine. and there are some people that are for it. So I would really like experts to
look
come
at
and
that.
talk to us.
Mhm. And there
Yeah,
were
that's a good one. That's a good one. That's a very good one. Very important.
today the stock market went up soared because of an announcement that there are 11 potential vaccines.
There you go.
Yeah. Well,
So it's time to really discuss
But
these.
not in the traditional time frame of
Right.
of coming out. So there's a lot of issues, but it's a great issue
Yeah.
in
Yeah.
so many.
You'd have to do
Okay.
some research to figure out who it is you'd want to come, because there are a lot of would-be experts, and then there are people who actually are experts.
Right, right.
Right.
Well, as this unfolds, quickly, I'm sure there will appear. So I would really like that and as well as the community would like to know.
Yeah. Now, I bet you there'll be an interesting reaction, because there are folks in the community who are anti-vaccine when it comes to things like measles and mumps and things like
Absolutely.
that.
Yes.
And it would be interesting to see if they have the same approach to coronaviruses. Yeah.
It'll be a good shot in the arm for our committee.
Oh my goodness.
Ah, come on.
I guess some
Very
of
good.
the opposition, some people are against all vaccines. Some people are opposed to vaccines depending upon what the chemical contents are. So you're absolutely right. Some people will have been opposed to measles and mumps, but if they have confidence in the safety of a new vaccine for coronavirus, they may not have a problem.
Well,
Yeah.
on the heels of the president taking the malaria vaccine,
Oh God.
WHO has barred it. WHO says no. Yeah, this is yesterday, I think.
Yeah.
And because I attend their live meetings, and they put a stop to that vaccine. I forget the long name for it.
Hydrochloroquine.
Yeah.
That's it. Yeah, hydrochloroquine. And so the president is touting it in his way. And who knows how many people have already made millions.
Yeah.
And but WHO takes a position against it now.
Hey.
So this is a huge issue. And
Yeah.
Yeah.
Other issues, I wanted to just throw out one that's thrown out every year. We're going to do something when this all happened. The fact that huge numbers of children, large percentage of children, probably 15 to 20%, enter school or early schooling have vision and eye related issues that are not, unless their acuity is poor, that are never dealt with. And just a little anecdote, I was in a master's program class on reading, and the reading expert in the United States was there and mentioned 20 different vision issues that affect children. And during that, she mentioned, I forgot what the name was, but it meant double vision. And she said she's never met anybody with it. And a woman in the class said, my son.
Wow.
Her son was one. And someone else said they know someone. And they lived through seeing double, starting with first grade where the teacher put an A on the board and they knew what it was. So they said AA. And she said, you only have to say it once.
yeah.
And when we get into it, so this is something that affects schools, but affects children. It's the health of children and the well-being of children, because it's a disability. It can be corrected at 4 or 5 years old, but later on it's very hard to correct.
Wow.
And children can suffer their whole school, but that's just one of 20. And so schools do testing for acuity, and that's about it. And as an educator, in middle school, I was observing a teacher who I thought was a crackerjack teacher for the first time. And during that time, she said to John, why don't you sit over here? Because I know you have vision problems. This was in February. And the child had been in the back of the room the whole year, and he couldn't read the font on the board or on the smartboard. So these things are are terrible in themselves, but when there are 20 different eye conditions that are not tested for, the question is, could that be done? Should it be done? For whom? Where? How? It's going to cost money, but it's children's education and children's lives.
Right.
You know.
Thank you
So,
for bringing that up, Shelley.
Great.
okay.
Well, and it raises a concomitant issue because associated with that is the complaint that the school nurses have had, where they've cut budgets where you no longer have school nurses, where you would want these children to be screened on a regular basis, at least once a semester, where they just go in there and they do an eye chart or whatever. But now, so we could tie the two together.
Yeah.
Our interest in that and the ideology of the thing, as it were, but also in our district needs statement.
Yeah.
And guys, if we don't,
But-
if the kids are not in the schools or not as much in the schools, I think there's something in what else are we going to be missing that normally gets caught from a health
Well,
perspective.
you know what I realize is that as I see my doctors in telemedicine, and then I mentioned to my heart doctor, I said, you know, I haven't had a blood test for my cholesterol, for this and that and the other thing in 6 months. So how do I know I'm okay? She says, no, I'm going to send somebody to you. So she sent her phlebotomist. She came in full gear and came in and left, took my blood, and with her mask and with her shield and with the whole thing, with the robes, with the gowns. And in 10 minutes, she was gone while I was taking my real estate class. I just put my arm out. And so the itinerant examiner, whether it is a phlebotomist or a school nurse, and the visiting nurse service will also visit you.
I think Courtney.
So again, this lockdown, and if whatever part of this remains permanent as the new way of delivering lessons,
Yeah.
the home visit by the providers becomes part of that. I think that's one of the, that's a response, I think, to what your concern is, which is
I think
legitimate one.
Courtney hit on a really serious issue, not just the vision, the hearing, and so on. Noticing a child and the things that the child is going through emotionally, mentally, physically, and so on. If you don't see the child, you don't know. You know, there's so much you can learn. So how to address that issue in this environment, I think, is a terrific topic.
Well, it really is, and to add without repeating, there was already a shortage of nurses in public schools prior to the shutdown, because and I think your district needs actually addresses this, or maybe it's YELs, but in summary, the school nurses are provided by two different sources, some from the Department of Education.
Yes.
And some from the Department of Health and Mental Hygiene, and they're on incredibly different pay scales.
That's
so
right.
Interesting.
you can't make this stuff up. So I forget, I think it's the DOE that pays better. So the DOHMH nurses tend to leave very quickly, and neither union nor neither employer will give up their part of the field. And so there's this chronic shortage, and it results in children not being able to go to school because there are children with medication requirements that can't be administered by a teacher. And so if there's no nurse, they can't go to school.
4 years ago, the DOE nurse, because I had customers she was a DOE nurse, and I says, well, she wanted a house. And I says, well, let's do your budget. And I says, what do you make a year? And she says, well, I don't know, but I make $15 an hour.
Right.
I said, oh my God, and you're a nurse? I didn't say that, but that's what's on my mind.
That's kind of amazing, isn't it?
Yeah.
Okay.
I fell off my seat. I fell off my chair.
Yeah.
And so if they're better paid, did you say the DOE is higher paid than the Department of Health?
No
I
question.
think so.
Okay.
I mean, this is just scandalous. All right, so this is another.
And it's not only the pay scale. Those that are not DOE nurses change over very quickly from where they're assigned. and very often are not full-time.
Right.
Yeah, yeah.
And by
Right.
the way, this is a violation of federal law and the chancellor's regulation, blah, 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 which requires that children get accommodation.
Right.
And they, for an assortment of reasons, including physical needs.
Exactly right. And there are hundreds of schools prior to the shutdown that didn't have a nurse, or they shared one with a school across the street,
Right.
which is a little bit insane because, you know, you can't control when a kid's going to get injured or when a kid's going to need treatment. So anyway, this is a worthy topic for your consideration is all I'm saying. You might want to think about whether YEL wants in on part of that conversation.
Sure.
Yeah, we should partner.
Okay. Any other pressing concerns or ideas?
I also, I mean, and maybe it's not pressing right now, but I would like an update on, what is it, Gardasil, the HPV vaccine that they were pushing on teenagers a few years ago. Anybody familiar?
I know of it, but I don't know the
Yeah.
update.
I don't know. I mean, I would like an update to know if it has been effective, you know, has it really helped?
And
And
what is it again?
I think it's called Gardasil. It's a HPV vaccine.
HPV.
Yeah, well,
Okay, is there research? Is there a report?
yeah, what's the update on that?
Yeah,
Okay.
when the COVID thing comes down a little bit, you can probably reach out to somebody at the Department of Health and
Mhm.
maybe get them to come talk to you.
Yeah, that would be great.
Okay,
I would think that an update on the unsheltered, especially the unsheltered mentally ill and their status in our district would be helpful. I know it's something we talked about before COVID. It strikes me that it's still an issue, probably more so, given everything that's going on. And it would be nice to kind of have someone who had a sense of what things were looking like and how we were doing.
so it's
Horribly. We're doing horribly.
those people you're finding on the street.
Right,
That's what you're referring to.
Yeah.
right.
And if you walk Broadway in the past 2 weeks,
Yep.
Right.
there are people who've been there forever. There's someone in front of Victoria's Secret that's been there for a year and a half.
Oh, yeah, that guy. Yeah.
But
Well,
there are a lot of new people too.
and what we're hearing anecdotally on the mommy Facebook groups is that the group that was, you know, the encampment that was on, seems to possibly have moved over to Columbus,
Mhm.
or maybe it's an offshoot. Anyway, it just strikes me that kind of getting a sense of what's going on would be helpful.
Mhm. Okay, great.
And
Right.
everything.
Okay.
Good.
Okay, if there are any other ideas that hit you or something that comes up in discussion with people or in your reading, just send it, okay, and we'll incorporate it. And then we'll try to check out and then put things in order depending on accessibility. If anyone knows anyone in a field or has a suggestion for an agency to handle any of these things, in the minutes, you'll be able to see the topics, any resources or any, even if you don't know yourself, but you know of an agency, that would be helpful. Okay?
Very good.
Hey,
Thank you.
nice to see everybody.
Good
Yeah.
to see everybody.
Where's
Yeah.
Catherine? Catherine's off in Thailand somewhere. Where's Catherine?
No. She's finishing up. She's intensely involved with her students trying to remotely meet all their needs. Okay? And she has. She reads their writing and analyzes their writing and talks to them about what's behind their writing. And it's not over till it's over.
Yeah.
So she's
It
doing
ain't
great
easy.
stuff.
Okay, very good.
Okay, everybody,
Okay.
stay well,
Be well, guys. Thank you very much. Good
and
meeting.
stay social.
Yes.
Thank
Take
you.
care. Good night.
Right.
Bye.
Now.